Brian, it looks like Katie sent an email saying she was having trouble joining the meeting, that she was emailing you.
She did. I just emailed her a fresh link.
Okay. I just wanted to let you know, I may have to leave the meeting early today. My son is starting behind the wheel. So I need to, whenever the guy shows up, I need to go out for that.
Good luck, Jennifer.
How'd you do that? My son can't get in there. Is it through the schools or is it like
No,
remote?
I homeschool. So I don't know if it's different.
Okay.
Yeah.
Katie is still having a challenge, so it's not the link. It seems to be something else.
Brian, do you know if you can use 2 people in the same Zoom account? So like the city set us up Zoom accounts, and Katie and I actually share this one. And so I told her to use it and I would sign in as myself, but it didn't ask me to sign in.
You should be able to. You should, you'll come in, it'll look like you're on the meeting twice. At least that's how I've seen it behave.
Okay, well, I was worried that
I log in on multiple computers.
Yeah. Well, then it can't be that then. I was worried it was because I don't know if I'm signed in as my own account or the city account, because it didn't ask me to sign in.
The other thing she could do, I'll tell her right now, is she could do the phone in the meantime. And for everyone's knowledge, it is being recorded now, and the video will be available on the city's website if anyone needs it. Katie's about to call in via her phone. One Zoom tip while we're waiting: if you dial in via telephone and you're a panelist, use your participant ID. Otherwise, your phone number will be exposed and visible to the public watching the meeting. But if you enter it asks for a webinar ID, and then it says if you have a participant ID, enter that. And as a panelist, you're given one. So if you use that, it'll cloak your phone number. Right now, you do not have an audience, at least on Zoom.
So I know that, oh, there's Tarn. Jody's going to be late. Katie's obviously working on it. And Mary can't come. Who else? So that's probably it, right, Jennifer?
I'll read through the list I had. Tarn, Katie, Julia, Krista, Jenny, Jody, Amy, Crystal, Suzanne, Mary, Jennifer, Martha, Netta.
Okay. So that's right. Well, as soon as Katie joins, we'll go ahead and get started.
Is this Katie?
Katie, are you there?
Hello.
Now,
I don't
Katie,
know what's going on. I can't get in through Zoom, so I'm not sure what to do.
and I can't rename you the way you came in, and your number is
Should
visible.
Should I register like it asked me to do when I tried to go through Zoom on my personal phone? Like, I'm happy to do that. Try it that way.
We can hear you fine if you don't mind. Just doing it by your phone, if it works.
If you register as a public attendee, I could promote you to be a panelist.
Okay, well, let's do it that way because I'd rather be able to see. It's just easier.
Sounds
okay,
good.
let me do that real quick.
Okay.
Thanks.
Okay, Katie's getting promoted as we speak. And Katie, you're on mute, just so you know.
Thank you. I'm having a lot of difficulties right now.
It's all good. I'm going to drop off, but I'm listening, and let me know if you need anything.
Thank you. Okay, so I think we're all here, so we can go ahead and start with our agenda. Do everybody have a chance to read the meeting notes from last month? And does anyone have anything to add to today's agenda?
Yeah, I think there was a little bit of a correction on the meeting notes. I reported about the grant funding ending, and so that means we have no more grant funds for parent partner services. The way it read was we lost the funding to the end of the year, but the grant has ended.
Okay.
Yeah. And I think I reported that there was a chance they might extend it to the end of the year, which they have, but I don't know that it really has any impact for us. So anyway, we'll just leave it as the grants ended.
Okay. Thank you. Anybody else? Okay, we'll start with updates. Fat, Krista, and Julia.
For Albemarle, there's really, I guess, no real updates. We continue to be virtual with a pretty decent amount of parent and guardian participation. So it's really good to see. I don't think, Jennifer, if there's anything you know of, jump in, but I don't really think there's much to report.
Okay. From City FAPT, pretty much the same. Still virtual, going well, and I think our parent participation has kind of dropped off.
The phone's gonna be here.
Yeah, so I think we're good.
All right, CSA coordinator update.
Yeah, so I guess the CSA conference this year, I don't know if we said it last month, it's going to be virtual. It's October 29th through the 30th. And so I don't know if you all have already gotten an email, but if anyone wants to participate, we can certainly forward you the link. You have to sign up before. So if anybody's interested in participating, you can let Katie or I know, and we can send that to you. What else? Oh, so last month, CPMT looked at some data. They're actually going to do the CQI tool, I believe, this month. And so that's that annual sort of data, big picture that they look at once a year. So they're supposed to be doing that for this month's meeting. And then I guess we'll probably bring that to you guys after they do that. And then obviously if they have any recommendations, that'll be coming to you all.
Yeah, the CQI tool is the tool developed by the state that we're supposed to report on annually. And so we'll be taking that to CPMT for them to talk about and then sharing it with you all at the November meeting.
I think that's it.
All right, agency updates.
So with Region 10, so we have, I don't know if anybody has heard, we have an agency restructure happening. And so Nita Davis is going to be absorbing adult clinical and outpatient services and Project Link services under her umbrella. I don't think we have a new name for the center yet, but I think we're really hopeful that it really will integrate a lot of family services across the continuum. And you know, of course, we have family treatment court, which is a big part of what our CSA folks see, FAP funding approval request. And, you know, there's a heavy integration of adult clinical project link under that. So I think it's going to be really positive to have that kind of under one auspice to really kind of create good flow and coordination for our adult participants who, you know, need to address those substance abuse issues to keep the kids in the home or have their kids return.
Just to kind of give a DSS update, our office is still closed to the public, though we're providing all services either outside of our office or virtually. The state did change our virtual ability to do home visits virtually, and so we have to go back to doing those in person. And except if there is like a COVID, you know, you have to be able to document that there was a COVID concern and then you can do it virtually, but they have changed it so that we are in the homes and or outside of the homes, but seeing the clients face to face for sure. So that is kind of one DSS update that I thought you guys should know. Anyone else?
I'll just jump in and say, I think we're at the same point as we were last month. Our agency is going by the Harvard medical model, and we're evaluating and are reevaluating it the first of each month. And so I think Charlottesville and Albemarle are still in like the orange and red zones. So unless there's a crisis or it's a high risk kid, then we are doing virtual contacts. And when we do need to see them face to face, again, we're staying outside. We're not going into the homes or anything like that. So it'll still be like that, at least for the month of October.
I would say update from Department of Human Services and CAF. We are obviously doing the in-person home visits with our DSS partners, doing some transportation, obviously using screening questions and taking all the recommended precautions. We're also doing a tremendous amount of anti-racist work individually, and trying to identify areas that we could improve on that. So that is our update.
How's it going, Suzanne? How are the schools doing?
We're good. The school board's going to vote tomorrow on whether we're going to go into another stage of bringing kids in. And we'll see what that looks like. They sent a survey out to all the teachers, and I believe they sent a survey to parents, or I thought I'd heard that they were going to. I don't know if that happened or not. If they pull in stage 3, it would be all of our functional skills students, all of our A-based, our autistic students who are in the regular ed population, and I believe another level of ESOL. And then I think schools can pick a few kids also if they are just struggling so much online. But we don't have any idea what's going to happen at the school board tomorrow. So we will find out, and then we will follow up. That would start November, I think the 4th, after we have that little bit of a break after Election Day is when we'd pull in more kids. So we'll see. The special ed department has already pulled in. We just are finishing up another we went out and talked to case managers and talked to parents again about whether some of those populations we needed to pull in more now and not wait until November. So there are about another 12 kids that we've asked to come in across the levels. So that's kind of where we are.
The kids that are going, is that going well?
Yeah, for the most part, it's going really well. It's you know, it's going to be kind of a challenge as we get more kids in as to what teachers are actually coming in and what TAs are actually coming in, because right now it's a voluntary. And I'm not sure, at one point the school board was saying they were going to have all teachers come in, and then that got pushed back. So I don't think that's happening. So we'll see. We'll see. Right now, yes, it's going very well. And the kids are all wearing masks, or at least training on how to wear masks. Some have to go through that desensitization process, but they're working through that and going through it. All our TAs have scrubs. They all have face masks, gloves, outer protective wear if they need it, shields, lots of cleaning supplies. The rooms all have those air ventilator things in them. And so, no, we've heard pretty good things. The kids and the teachers who are back are thrilled. They're so happy to be working with kids again. So it's just making sure each step that we've got all the staff that we need, and, you know, we'll figure it out if we don't, but, so we'll see.
All right, anybody else for updates? Okay, so we had decided last month that we would just kind of overall talk about service provision, and a couple of us touched on that, but does anyone else want to make others aware of how service provision is going or needs that have been assessed during this time? Everything about the same as what we spoke about last month?
I don't remember exactly what I touched on last time, but we are doing foster parent training virtually. We are doing home studies, both with resource and kinship families virtually. We have minimal contact in order to collect paperwork or do a quick run through houses. So we know what we're working with. Yeah, a lot of Zoom meetings, like everyone.
Yeah, I would just say that I've been impressed with DSS and how we've been able to continue a lot of services in order to make sure the plans that clients, you know, are working on are being followed through, and that COVID really hasn't been a stop to a lot of people's service plans. So I think that's been really good. We've been able to get kids returned home. We've been able to do visitation with families, and we did stop that a little bit, but it's been able to be, you know, we figured it out in ways to keep everyone safe. So that's been continuing. So it's definitely been slower, but I still feel like we're able to meet clients' needs and keep things moving, which, and you know, child welfare is pretty important.
Yeah, I think we, you know, still have the issues with, you know, our acute and high needs kids and, you know, programs, facilities being able to accept them. That's continuing. I don't know if folks knew too that the Commonwealth Center had to shut down to hospitalizations because of a COVID outbreak there. So that created further ripples in the system when it came to like kids in acute crisis. But they have set up mechanisms with the privates to, you know, attempt to absorb some of those what otherwise would be TDO admissions. But it's created, increased stress, for our high needs families. So. But I would say too, I think, our community-based providers have done a really good job of, helping support these families in crisis. So that has been really, really good.
All right, anyone else about service provision? All right, so let's see, next on the list is if anybody is interested in chairing for FY21. We talked a little bit about that last month. I think Krista kind of threw her name in. So I don't know if anybody's thought any more about that and would be interested. Or if any two people want to co-chair.
So I'd rather co-chair with someone, or at least have you co-chair with me, Jenny, for the first couple of meetings or something. But I know Jody said something about chairing also. She's not here. We could just elect her.
I thought she said she didn't think she could because she was going to be late all the time.
Oh.
Yeah, that works, Krista. I'd be more than happy to co-chair with you. So we could do that unless somebody else wants to. Everyone's staying on mute. I see how it works.
But we really appreciate those of you who have volunteered. At least I know I do. Thank you.
Okay, that's fine. Okay, so the next is UR guidance. So I don't know if Katie or Jennifer, you want to present that?
I can start. So this came out from the state, I think last month. And if I remember correctly, there was kind of like a work group that got together to put this together. And then it was sent out to all the localities. So Jennifer and Cheryl and I got together and looked at it just to see if there's anything in it that we feel like we needed to adopt, or we needed to go back and look at our local policy and beef up, or anything like that. And we, particularly because we have audits coming up in the next couple of years too, but we felt like we were in pretty good shape, but wanted to share in particular in the resource packet, there's 2 pages that are local CSA family satisfaction surveys. And I know it's something that we've been talking about for years. And I know we had been using the FAPT survey, and we started to talk about what is something we could do to maybe replace that. That was kind of not just about the FAPT meeting. And so we wanted to share those with you guys, maybe as a starting place for a discussion about, can we adopt something like this? And I think even if we're not able to reach everybody that touches our CSA system, but if we could just start thinking about some way to start reaching more people than those that just come to the FAP meeting, which is not very many. So we wanted to bring that to you guys as the first part of this guidance. I think the second thing that we wanted to talk about was, we've talked a lot about mentoring or looking at particular services, and Region 10 has always provided UR for us. And so is there a particular service such as mentoring, or maybe even like independent mentoring, that we would want to talk about, maybe looking at with Region 10, you know, taking like a sample of cases and Region 10 doing some UR regarding that particular service, just to kind of inform our practice and what we're funding and all of that. So those were just a couple of ideas that we had when we got together and looked over all of this, and just wanted to share those with you all and see what we wanted to do with it. Did I miss anything, Jennifer?
No, I don't think so. I'm trying to look through. No, I think you pretty well hit on everything. I mean, I think when you look at the 2 surveys that they provided as samples, the one I feel like our FAP survey currently that we're using now, I mean, I feel like that one kind of meets what this one is. The other one is more about the family providing specific feedback about the services. And so that's the one I think if we could really focus on, you know, even the sample, I think is a great starting point. If, you know, we could just start off with it. And if it looks like we needed to add a question or change something about it, we could always do that. I know we had changed a couple of things on the FAP survey before, so it's not like we couldn't make modifications as needed, but I think it would be really good to get something started, just so that way we do have some feedback, particularly as our audits are coming, that we can show that we've started doing these. So I guess part of the question is figuring out how, you know, at the FAT meeting, it's easy to hit folks because they're there. Obviously now, because it's virtual, we're sending them out by mail, which the return rate's a lot lower, but we're still getting some back. So that's a good thing. But this other one, I feel like we sort of need a different way of delivering this one. So I don't know if you'll have any questions.
Well, one of the things that we talked about, and like I've been kind of surprised about, is how many of our clients actually do have access to, you know, text and email. And so, you know, is there a survey we could do, you know, and then send out a text link where they could respond, they could just, you know, through text or something like that, versus doing pen and paper. I don't know how that would work, but it's just an idea.
Didn't we talk about that before, where we could like send out like Survey Monkey, like through a link? Didn't
right. And like,
so
you know, they have, go ahead.
I was just going to say, I feel like we sort of had an idea for how to create it. The question became how to deliver it. I feel like that's where we got stuck, was how to get it to the folks to complete it. But like saying, because we do have folks showing a lot more accessibility to technology, that if the case managers were able to just send them the link, that, you know, that would be a way to make.
I feel like you now, because of the schools having to support so much. I mean, we've got hotspots all over this county now that weren't there before. So I feel like we could get the majority anyway of people. There's still a few that are not available, and those kids are in schools, but they're not many at this point. So I do think technology would work.
And you know, I kind of feel like something is better than nothing, you know, and we've been talking about this forever. And so just starting somewhere, getting some sort of feedback, and then kind of enhancing it as we go along was kind of what we were thinking about.
I think now's kind of the time, because everyone has just become accustomed to this as our way of life. And so I think before, when we were talking about it, I think we, you know, thought about all the different things that would go wrong, because there was other options. But now that we've, you know, been living in this world where we have to really rely on tech, I think less of those problems, or those different things that we mentioned are problems. So
yeah, and I think before we've also really gotten bogged down in how do we reach everybody? How do we do this equitably? All of that. And like, not that those things aren't important, but again, you know, some information or feedback is better than none.
And so who's the target again? So you're saying not just people that go to FAPT?
I'll figure it out. Say that again.
So who are we trying to target? Just all families that use CSA services?
Yeah, I think with the second survey, the one that is more narrative, and again, maybe we could make some of this not so narrative if we feel like that's helpful. I think it would be any families receiving CSA services versus like just the family members that come to FAPT. And so I don't know, I mean, like that's a ton of people, right? And I think we'd have to talk about how we get that information. Like if it's going to be a text, identifying those people on each case that we would send this text to.
And I would guess, I was going to say, probably unlike the FAPT survey where you could just get it like every time you come to FAPT, I think this one would be a little more just because of the size you're talking about potentially having to deal with. I don't think this could be like every time, you know what I mean? I think it would need to have some more sort of parameters around how we would do it.
Would we do like point in time, like all cases like in a certain month, and you know, like we're gonna do it annually? Or
I like the idea. Yeah. Or even like after, I'm just thinking of like, you know, the amount of surveys, or maybe like after FAPT, we take those cases for that week and identify who would get it based on that week's FAPT schedule or something. I don't know. I guess it depends on how often we want to do it. Like, do we want to do it once or twice a year and send it to a ton of people, or do it, you know, weekly or monthly, sending it to fewer people? Whatever seems more manageable, I guess.
Well, I think we would definitely need to change the questions to be either like a scale question or a couple word answers.
Mm-hmm.
So they're not having to type that much. Some of our clients would just be using their phone.
Right. Jennifer, because Mary's not on the meeting, but Jennifer, do you know, I feel like at one point you guys had somebody who like kind of specializes in this stuff.
Yes.
And so is that person still available?
So I need to double check, but I want to say yes, that she could definitely, I think, help create the survey and the link that would be used. I need to get with her about how we would, like all the technical pieces of it, I don't know, but I could definitely follow up with her.
Like if there's somebody who can answer some of those questions, like if they get a text and they click on the link, then what happens? Right. Or like, where does that data go?
Right. So I think what would be good is to know like how you want the survey to look, and then like what the plan is for sending it out, because obviously if it's a one-time thing, she's going to send it out once and then gets what results she gets, versus if it's something that's going out every week, it'll change like what she'll need to do.
Okay.
So those parts out.
Okay.
Could you present both of those options to her and then see maybe what she would say is the like good thing about that or bad thing about that?
Yeah, I'll ask.
And I'm happy to, like, Jennifer, if you want to do a meeting with the both of us with her, or okay. And then report back next month.
Sounds good.
Yeah, because we might want to know kind of the parameters to the tech piece before, you know, we all get excited. And
yeah, if it gets too technical, I may just invite her to the meeting next month. Okay,
that sounds like a better plan.
Yeah.
I'm curious if it's a follow-up, or if we're sending out emails and it ends up in spam folders, or like who's following up and prompting or electronic reminders.
Yeah, and like I guess that's something we need to talk about, how much of that we're able to do. You know, if we're sending, you know, if we have like 500 CSA kids a year, and we're sending it to multiple potential family members on a caseload. You know, that's like the people. Yeah, I feel like part of me just wants to like start doing something and then figure it like make it better as we go along. But maybe that's not the best way to handle it.
Would there be a way to make sure that we cover a wide range of all the services? If we did, you know, pick a number of mentoring services, of attachment services or something like that. There's a part of me that's a little concerned if we just pick a week or a month, we might miss some seasonal services or something else.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I'm looking at the questions. I don't even think it says which services did you receive. It just kind of talks in general about their overall experience.
That might be a good question to add and just put a click, you know, just something that they could click to say, oh, I received mentoring in this, or I received, you know what
Yeah, because these questions are really just going to give us an understanding of how overall CSA services are. You know, if we wouldn't be able to like whittle down into attachment or mentoring or anything like that with these questions.
I was trying to remember, like, when we talked about doing a quality type of survey on mentoring that, you know, Taryn was helping us try to figure out some of that. How far did we get with an actual like cert questionnaire? I can't quite remember.
I remember what they talked about, the child behavior checklist, but there's a cost associated with doing that. And so I feel like that was kind of another hurdle that sort of slowed down.
But it was mostly about the efficacy of the service from an objective, using an objective tool versus a parent's perception of effectiveness.
Right. That's kind of where we landed.
Yeah.
But you know, I think if nothing else, if we just, like Katie was saying, if we just start with something that's really basic, but I think what would be interesting is, like, when I think about the FAP surveys, how almost all of them tend to come back really positive that we've seen. You know, you'll have maybe a random survey that comes back, which a lot of times people immediately know like who that was, even though, but I think it would be good to at least see, hey, are we mostly seeing positive things about these, or do we see like everything's like really bad feedback? And if it is, then maybe that's the time to say, maybe we actually need to figure out like which services they're talking about. So I'm just thinking it like she said, it just might be a good place to start.
Or if we're seeing trends and the feedback that we're getting, then that's something we could drill in on a little bit more, or try to.
I agree with you guys. I think we've got to start somewhere. And this sounds like a good place to start.
Okay, so you'll either invite her to the next meeting or get the information and bring it to us. Okay.
Yep. As far as, so I know we talked about adding sort of this click box with a list of a variety of services. Are you guys okay with the questions as they are? Or do you feel like there's anything? And again, like we could just start and see, you know, how it goes. But I know you were saying like you wanted it to be less writing for them.
This one's pretty writing intensive.
Would you guys want to do like a scale and then just maybe have a place at the bottom where they could actually provide feedback, like the FAP survey kind of laid out that way? Would that be better?
I think scaling is better.
Okay.
Or even or scaling and then like offering a place for narrative. That way, if they don't want to explain, they don't need to. But having the opportunity get that additional information if they do have more to say than a rating or yes, no. And so like we can certainly, I'm happy to look at this and try to reword the questions and come up with a scale for each question, or at least keeping the same types of questions.
Yeah, I like that it asks about discharge and then connecting to community resources.
Yeah. Okay, anything else about the survey?
Anything else about the, I guess, just overall UR that we need to talk about?
I think the other part that we wanted to talk about is if there's interest in working with you or working with Region 10 to kind of look at a particular service or anything like that to do UR around that, any kind of particular, service or providers or anything like that. And again, part of the reason, why we also want to make sure Crystal is here is we aren't sure like what Region 10's capacity is to do some of that. If it's something we wanted to follow through on, kind of what they'd be able to do or not do.
I mean, I think we're willing to do the work. I think we just have to define what the scope is, and negotiate through that depending on what service we're looking at. Yeah.
And in the way our UR has been set up, it's been child specific. And so again, would we pull a sample of kids and then bill it that way?
Right. I think it goes back to, our whole look at like mentoring. It's like, we kind of like lost some traction there. Is that where people would want to start?
Well, I think, I think we have, at least for the city, there's been kind of this hesitation to use like independent mentors because there's not the oversight or the regulation. And if we looked at those and saw like they're doing really great work or, they are identifying goals and they are, whatever, we would, identify those kind of components to be, would we feel more comfortable using some of the more independent mentors? That's just an example of something we could look at. Or do we want to do something like broader than that?
Well, the other service comes to mind is attachment-based work. It seems like we just have an ever-growing reliance on that. So I don't know. I don't know if that would be something people would want to look at in terms of, the lengths of service and the outcomes and when it's applied. I mean, it just seems like it's getting applied across a broader spectrum of situations and circumstances as well.
Definitely on the county side, at least, we've seen a lot more providers offering attachment-based services. So, I've definitely seen an increase in those who are offering those types of services.
Right.
Like outpatient providers?
Yes. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. I feel like on the city's side, we definitely see a lot with like Secure Child and those kind of attachment, but not necessarily outpatient.
So, yeah, we've seen some growth in that.
Yeah, we definitely do.
So we had in Albemarle, we had what they want. We got a request to start attachment-based services on an infant. And so, yeah, it's like, are there providers, specialized in infant mental health? I mean, we don't know. We just, they recommend service, so we go ahead and, approve it. But yeah, what's the specialization and what's the anticipated outcome when you do it at that age? So.
I think at the city, we would be interested in knowing a little bit more about length of time when it comes to attachment services. We've definitely had some cases where the, recommendation is that they're going to need a year and a half of this in order to be, healthy and can get their kid back from foster care. And so sometimes that's really hard for us with our timelines. So just like understanding that and knowing more about that would be helpful. I would be in favor of either one. Never really thought of mentoring, doing UR with mentoring. That's, I don't think we've just ever done it that way. So that's, I don't know if that would kind of fit.
Yeah. Well, I guess for me, sitting on the FAPT it just seems like we have this ever-growing reliance on it. And, and of course, then you have the variation in providers and what they're doing within that.
And so, Katie, we would have to look at, if we did mentoring, we would have to look at child specific, right? So
so we would almost need to figure out like a random sample and in order to like get it approved on those cases so that we could pay for it, which I don't think would be hard to do.
Okay.
We just need to kind of identify exactly what we're looking for. Like, is it just any case that has any service coded as mentoring, right? And that would be across providers.
Right. Because I think it would be interesting to look at the difference between just mentoring and therapeutic mentoring.
Well, and the way that we report mentoring now, it's all under mentoring ever since the standardized service names. So we could do that, and then within that sample, I guess we'd have to identify which providers are considering themselves as providing therapeutic mentoring versus mentoring.
I'm cautious of, because honestly, like almost all the independent mentors are calling that therapeutic mentor. I mean, it's sort of how they're naming it, but at the end of the day, OCS code is mentoring regardless of who's the one providing it.
Right.
I don't think that's gonna, like, somebody's gonna have to drill down to get to that and how you define it.
Yeah. So do you think the question right now is, if we as a group identify a particular target area, that we would just proceed with this at this point?
And I guess that's really the question we're bringing to program, is to say, like, this UR service is something that Region 10 offers. It's something that we could purchase child specific. So, as you think about mentoring, would there be certain types of length of time? Like, if you've been mentoring for the last 2 years, would you be more interested in seeing UR around that versus just a random sampling of cases? So I think part of the question is just figuring out, like, what do you value added?
Yeah, right. The same with attachment, really identifying what are we really looking at? What do we really want to know?
Mm-hmm.
I think if we did mentoring, we would kind of find the answers, to those questions. It just depends on like how much the samples kind of give us, but I think it would probably hit on like this service is really working and they've had it for this long, and that could have been too. I think through the UR process, we would probably get a lot of answers. It's just whether or not, like, how many we would have to pick in order to really give us an understanding of like what mentoring looks like within our, you know, CSA service area.
Mhm.
So, Crystal, I'm just curious, do you feel like there's a certain sample size that would be manageable for Region 10?
I mean, if, you know, if we had like a certain time frame to work within, you know, to work within or whatever, I think, you know, if that was kind of open, you know, certainly we could do more. If it was like, oh, well, we need this done in, you know, a month, you know,
And
so yeah, I mean, I think over a 3-month period, if, you know, there was a case sample size. I mean, well, I guess it also, you know, you'd have to look, do we have a number? What do we have a number of in terms of services being provided under the umbrella of mentoring? And then kind of work back from there. Okay, what seems to be a reasonable size? And then
that's what I was going to say, because I remember when we had this conversation a while ago, the county and city both pulled the number of cases point in time. And I feel like between the two of us, it was around, I want to say like 100 or so.
Okay.
And so, you know, knowing our total, any of those would we look at?
Right. Well, I would think
like what?
Yeah, I would think if you really wanted to get a sample, you'd probably want to look to at least like 20 to 25%, right? At least.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, I think that makes sense.
That'd be like 25 cases.
Yeah.
I mean, could you guys do that many cases?
Well, again, it would be like over what period of time would we have to do it? Yeah. Yeah, I would think in a 3-month period we could look at that many cases.
Well, that sounds like a good idea to me. A good starting point, just to see what kind of information we get. I don't know if we could do like January to March, and that would give enough time to get the information together.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think that could work. I don't think it would be hard to pull the sample.
Mm-hmm.
And then we would just, Crystal, you guys have like a UR template
that
you already use, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So we could.
Yeah. I mean, it would be good to hone in on what questions, you know, again, what question do we have? Is it like, you know, how long are our kids receiving this? You know, go ahead.
One of the things we've talked about before that's probably important too is like the reason why mentoring is added on a case, right? Because we talked about how that really and how that can affect kind of the goals and the outcomes.
Right. The reason and the length of service.
And I don't know if folks want that sort of distinction between independent mentors versus the ones that are with agencies, just so that you can sort of see if there's any, I don't know, difference between them. I don't know.
Well, I think, are we assuming that if we get a random sample of, you know, that number, that within that we'll have the variety?
You would from the county.
So I think in the city, you probably wouldn't have as much of a variety. The only independent mentors we have are going to be on Region 10 and CSU and SPED RAP cases.
Right. So you'd have to pull those in order to get that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I would like to see like, yeah, that variation. I think it would be valuable because to me, part of it is, are we matching the right level of need with the whoever we're contracting with? Because I see this variation, even with my staff, when they say, oh, well, we're going to use this individual mentor. And I'm like, well, you know, are you sure this kid doesn't need a more therapeutic approach? And we shouldn't be going with, you know, this particular, you know, a licensed provider instead. So, and then you have that variation in the language in the IFSP. Well, you know, they're asking for, they're using the narrative therapeutic mentoring, but then they're contracting with an independent mentor who really, you know, isn't licensed or certified to do that level. So I think it would be good to get a variety, a sample, more intentional in that way.
So is there a way to get that sample like she's describing?
Yeah, I mean, I think
it would, sorry, go ahead.
I was gonna say, I think for the city, like it may mean like pulling case, or like, I probably would recognize the name and kind of who the case manager is.
Yeah.
And we probably have less than 5 total. So I think I could identify those and pick those out.
Yeah.
And then the other number that we needed could be a random sample of the other ones that are with agencies.
Right. Yeah.
I don't think it'd be that hard.
Mm-hmm.
All right, do we want to initiate that and just go ahead with trying to figure that out now? Is that the first step, the sample?
Yeah, I mean, I think too, just like running it by CPMT to let them know this is something we're gonna work on too, would be helpful.
Okay. All right, anything else with UR?
Not unless there was anything else you guys.
Okay, so I guess our focus areas. I don't know really how we're doing that these days. I can't remember if we're talking about each one of them or.
I think the only part of that we, you know, Jennifer and I mentioned earlier, CPMT is going to be reviewing the CQI tool that's this month. So, I mean, next month we'll have something under data review to bring to you guys. You know, family engagement. We talked about,
right.
And this trying to survey. So
I will say, I'm a little behind. The one that we just sent out was January to March, and then there weren't any for April to June because we were doing everything like through email. And then when we started back with Zoom meetings in July, when FAPT started meeting again, we would have started sending them back out again. So probably next month, I think I'll have the ones that are July to September to bring to you guys for the FAPT survey results.
And I'm not going to lie, like the city has not really been keeping up with the FAPT survey results since everything went virtually. I guess because they're not in the meeting and you can't just give them the survey afterward. It's just been much harder to keep up with it. So just to be completely honest with you all.
All right, is there anything else with Is there an update on this? Are we going to do that service gap thing or no?
There's no update from the state
We haven't heard
about it.
Okay. Okay, so I think we can move on from our focus areas. Obviously, we were very focused. So anybody have any trauma-informed service to report out? I don't know if anybody attended the last trauma-informed network meeting. I did not. I had a conflict. I think it was about self-care, if I remember correctly. And relating that to the stress of the world, I think, honestly, everything that's going on.
Yeah, I think Sarah Robinson, did she do the presentation on resiliency during COVID? And she's been doing that.
I think that was it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Sure, it was very good. She gives great presentations. Okay, any other or new business? All right, and then messaging out for CPMT would be about UR and mentoring, and then also working on overall survey of the CSA families. Anything else we need to message out?
I think that's it.
Okay. I think we're done unless anybody has anything else to talk about.
Nope.
All right. Thanks, everyone. See you next month.
Thanks. Bye.
Bye.